time to fuel your business success. Welcome to Harmonious at Lunch. We're bringing you bite-sized advice and expert conversations to drive clarity and growth 5 days a week. Make sure you join our Facebook group at humanop.com/lunch, where listeners like you and our guests hang out so we can find harmony in business together. If you're building a business, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Welcome back into some more bite-sized business advice. In today's episode, we're talking ops. We're going to nerd out. We're talking how to scale your business, one of my favorite topics. If you've listened to this show for more than 12 seconds, you know that. But I have a very special guest with me today, David Forrester. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So this topic, as I hinted at, I love talking about how to turn your business into a scalable machine, something you can grow, you can sell. It's the best way to run and own any business. And I wish that everybody gets there at some point in their lives, and hopefully sooner rather than later. I think you're on the same boat. But why don't you tell me, let's introduce this topic, because it's not a new topic, but what's your unique spin on it, and why is this your area of focus?
Yeah. So I love building relationship and community. And so I'm a people person. And one thing that I get really frustrated around, I work with contractors and trades and a lot in the green industry, and consistently hearing that there's just no good people to hire, and I can't get a good team. They don't have any common sense, blah, 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 all the cliche stuff. Right. And I think some of the stats say it's like 94% of business problems are actually process problems, not people problems. So just putting that system in place so that your people know actually what you want.
Yeah, this is fascinating to me, because I think if you boil it down, you really do have two parts of a business. You have people and process, right? And I have a background as a fractional COO. We merged with HumanOp, and now we focus more on the people side. But I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I think if you really do have to crack both of them, but the process is often, in terms of scalability, what will hold you back first. So it's definitely the area that needs to be addressed. Although I will say common sense is not so common. Have you also noticed that?
Yeah, I've got a unique perspective on that, of like everybody's background and like how you're trained as a kid, what you learn builds what your common sense is around. So it's hard to match somebody else's, but it is different today for sure. Yeah.
We'll save that for a different.
Yeah. That's a sidetrack.
But anyway, so let's dive into the process part, because you specialize in the trades. And that's, there's a lot of optimization opportunities, especially for trade businesses. We talked about that a few episodes ago on this show. Where do you typically start with people, knowing that you're going to have to address the processes? I mean, what are you looking for in a business to determine, A, if it's scalable at all, and then B, what the first thing you're going to tackle is?
Yeah. I just asked a few questions about, how are decisions being made? Is the team able to make a decision, or are you feeling like you're constantly answering questions, which is obviously very common. What are the handoffs like? Does it go from, first lead connection to follow up at the end of the job? Does every handoff in between, is it nice and smooth, or is there a lot of unknown errors, scheduling, fleet management, like all the product and material procurement, all that stuff? Is all that smooth? And really those two first areas are probably going to blow up in the conversation. And so that's usually where we start, is decision-making frameworks and handoff templates.
I was going to say, are you met with blank stares usually when you start asking those questions?
It's usually, there's a little bit of like him humming and hawing around, like, yeah.
Yeah, that is, well, it's true. And that's not exclusive to the trades either. I mean, How are decisions made? Are you overwhelmed? How are handoffs being made, and are they efficient? I mean, every business has these things, but you're not really taught in life school that these are important things to run a business, especially if it's your first time running a business, which for most entrepreneurs it is. And unless you've done this multiple times and you've exited businesses and you know what it takes, kind of hard to get those things right. So knowing that, and when you go in, you have these conversations, what does that what does that look like to start getting it in place? Because I have a feeling that at least some of our listeners are they're gonna have that same reaction when you ask those questions of like,
Yeah.
oh, I didn't know these things were important. So what would be the action plan based on being met with blank stares?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just I like to take things down to the relational side of things, and slow it down and really just look at what are the key non-negotiables for how you make decisions as an owner. Every time a problem comes up on a site, you have 10, 15 questions that roll right through your head immediately because you've gone through it so many times and you know what this impacts and what that impacts. How does it impact the job cost? How's that going to impact? Are we going to charge the customer or not? Do we need to get more materials? Do we have too many materials? Do we not have the right materials? Is this going to impact the structure of the home, depending on what they're working on? Do we need to get an engineer? Like all of those type of questions start running through your head as the owner, but that's because you have, 10, 15, 20 years of experience on the technical side. So we need to get all of that out on paper, at least at first, and then start combing through that and finding what are the top non-negotiables. What are the things you have to think about first, and then train your team or give them a cheat sheet that helps them walk through that so that when they're calling you with a question, it's not, hey boss, this happened, what do we do? It's, hey, here's what we ran into, this, or the answers to these. Here's 3 options I came up with. Here's the one I think's the best. How do we run? And then all of a sudden it's a totally different conversation.
Yeah, much better way to have conversations. Those conversations is, here's what I've already outlined for us. What do you think? Rather than what do I do? What are the resistance points in this? Because logically that's very simple, right? You kind of think about it and you document things. But I've seen this time and time again, and I put it off in my own business for years in the beginning because it was just easier for me to not do it. I thought it was easier to answer the questions rather than actually sitting down and putting in the effort. What do you hear from people you work with, or just people in general in this same position, that keep them from doing that?
Exactly what you just said. And it's what I did for years, right? I mean, we had 8 businesses. We've exited 4 of them. The majority of those in the trades, some in retail and logistics. But that's the biggest thing is you got so much on your plate and you're so busy. You don't want to slow down to train that necessarily. So it is easier just to answer the question, but then you're going to be answering questions the rest of your life, right? All day. Nobody's going to think. And then you just get into that cycle. Well, nobody knows how to think. There aren't any good people out there anymore, blah, blah, blah. So that is the main resistance point. The other thing really being just not knowing how to train people. Like there's a ton of owners that are great technicians, and they, kind of like Michael Gerber says in the E-Myth, they had an entrepreneurial seizure. Just didn't like for the other guy. They didn't being managed. They're a little more free spirit. So they just went out, I know how to do this better. And they started, and people loved them because they're good problem solvers, great technicians. Then the business grew. And now they're at a point where they're like, I don't know what to do with these people. Like, I don't even like people. I just like doing my trade. Right. So what do I do? So that slowing down to actually train and teach and build is that resistance.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a common story too, in all lines of business, not just the trades. You have this moment where you think you could do it better yourself, or you're just really passionate about it and you want to do it for yourself. And then because you're so passionate, it takes off. And then you turn around and go, oh crap, I have 30 employees. I really don't know what I'm doing or how I got here. And it's this panic moment, right? Yeah. But how much of it too is, I'm curious if you've ever run into this, both for yourself in your past or for clients, people you've worked with. Is there a little bit of, well, if I get out of the way, I won't be needed? And there's it's almost like this psychological, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it, but it's like they're clinging onto it because it's like their worthiness in life to some degree. Yeah.
I think a lot of us in that position find our value there. It's kind of a hero complex. And depending on, I work a lot with the predictive index personality and culture building, and like hiring, you got to get the right people in the right seats, right people on the bus, all of those things. Right. But having the system for them once they get there is key. But in predictive index, you can really nail down like somebody's working style and what they're like. And certain personalities have a stronger hero complex, right? They almost cause problems so that they can be the savior. And that's just pretty common with the driven personalities with the autonomy that they like to find their value in that. So yeah, I think you're right on that.
Yeah, it's always fascinating. But anyway, again, different topic for a different episode. As far as when you do hire people, you need to scale, and we need to think about process. I assume for you that begins with the onboarding, because when you go back to those other statements of there's no good people have no common sense, I can't trust anybody, stuff like that. I mean, I've heard it all too, and I'm sure our listeners have even said those things. I've said those things in the past. Where do you start with understanding what the onboarding of that employee looks like and how to really maximize their success with the organization?
Yeah. I mean, it all starts with your org chart or your accountability chart, depending on the system you like to use the terminology from. But if you don't know what role is actually needed for the growth and the future of your company, and you're just hiring people because you want them to do this task, there's already confusion just in yourself. So getting your org chart dialed of not what you have today, but what you need tomorrow, and putting those roles in place. And then from there, actually getting a really clear, simple, easy to understand role description that'll give them like, here's what you do, here's what you're responsible for, that you have ownership of, and here's how I'm going to measure it. So you know what a win looks like and how you can be successful. There's the KPIs or key performance indicators you're going to track on a regular basis. And then the next step, once you understand that, what you're actually going to be trying to get somebody to do and how to measure it, then you can break down. And I like to do anyway, like a really simple onboarding process that's a daily and then rolling into like a weekly and quarterly process or system of this is exactly what this role does for the first 3 days. And then the second week, and then we measure this stuff over at 30 days, and then we go to 60, and then we go to 90. And that way, as soon as they get there, they know exactly what the next 3 months looks like. And that's going to blow their mind. Plus, you don't have to wake up and go, okay, what am I going to have this guy do today? Oh, I got 15 emails over here and 2 of these phone calls. Hey, could you just like pick up the trash today while I'm dealing with all this stuff? They already kind of know because they had the plan, and you have a plan in front of you that you don't have to recreate and think about. Oh, it's day 3. We're going to do this. Right. So, and also building in time in that there's going to be some fires, whatever.
Of course. But yeah, avoid the duct tape hiring, so to speak.
Yeah.
Oh, can you try this, and it'll be good for learning, right? Air quotes on learning. I love that. So then let's say that's the ideal scenario is you get to onboard a new person and you have this plan clearly laid out. You have an existing business now. I mean, we talked about this before, right? You're growing, you have 30 employees, and maybe this stuff isn't necessarily in place. How do you start from scratch, but start today with an existing business and sort of phase this in? Because that stuff could change. I mean, you could have people where they're used to doing a number of tasks, never had KPIs explained to them, never had role outcomes that they've been responsible for. Handoffs have never been explained. I mean, like a lot of times, and I've seen this in businesses, it's all duct tape. And things just happen to get done. And I'm sure you're laughing because I know you've seen it too. And there's nothing wrong with that, because that's how we get there. But how do you introduce this and slowly roll it out so that you can scale your business? Yeah.
I think the biggest key at the front end of it is taking ownership as the owner and as the leader. And, I can't think of a better word for it right now off the top of my head, but apologizing to the team. Like, hey, guys, we got here out of sheer grit and determination. And it's my fault that we don't have better clarity to go forward from here. But here's what I'm going to do to fix that. And we're going to have to make some adjustments, and we're going to have to do, there's going to be some changes and a little bit of, maybe some rough edges, but we're going to get this figured out. And I believe going forward with this, it's going to be better for all of us. You're going to have more clarity. You're going to have more opportunity, and make sure that it's not like, hey, I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off and just totally change your life tomorrow. Your job's different. And if you don't like it, then go find something else. Like, Don't do that.
Please don't do that.
I've had those thoughts run through my head, numerous times in running businesses of like, we're just going to change it now. Like, I broke this thing. We just need to fix it. Like, let's just go. And most people can't operate that way. So really just taking ownership of it, painting the picture and the vision that's a little bit different, and then having patience. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. You're going to have to build this thing in. You didn't build the business overnight to 30 people. So give it some time. The bigger it is, the longer it's going to take, but it's totally worth it.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. So before we wrap up, I'm curious. We've talked about the process side of things, and of course that's super important. What are the common roadblocks you see with people who are in that sort of range? Maybe 30 employees is a little much, but like 1 to 5 million, that's typically where I see a lot of these challenges start to compound and really become bottlenecks. And I call it the 7-figure sticking point. It's like, once you get to that point, you really can't go on grit alone anymore and hustle, so to speak.
Yep.
So what are the things that you typically see that hold businesses back, and maybe the common solutions that even you've helped them overcome?
I mean, the biggest thing is just, it's a control thing. It's when you've done that all, you've just really muscled that thing to $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million, whatever it's at, or 3, it depends on the industry and what's, what projects you're working on. But letting go of control doesn't have to mean you don't know what's going on. Right. My shirt, delegate like a boss, like start delegating and doing it properly. And build the systems in place that you don't lose control. You have control. You're just not breathing down everybody's neck. You have things to track and look at, and they're the things that are going to move the needle, and just start sticking with those things. Because that, if you don't want to let go and it's a control thing, that's usually what I've found is the biggest reason is, what are they doing? I don't know what's going on. And it's the fear that somebody's going to go break something and you're going to go out of business or whatever. And that's not generally the case. Nobody wants to put you out of business. They just need a system to follow.
Because they'd be out of a job too. So that would be kind of dumb.
But it feels like it sometimes. I know it. You feel like, I think they're just trying to like give me a heart attack or something, right? But
no, that's true. They are trying to give you a heart attack, so you get out of the way and they can then do their job.
Possibly true. Yep. There you go.
Oh man, no, it's it's funny because it's true, unfortunately. But
yeah,
a lot of times as leaders, and again, I'm only saying this because I was personally guilty of it. We are the only ones holding our business back, and everything you're saying is spot on. But there's no excuse for control to be the reason you hold on to things, especially with the software and technology that's at our fingertips these days. I mean, you can oversee everything on a dashboard that you build for yourself that would cost very little money, and have that control, air quotes again, that you're looking for without micromanaging people and pissing them off. So this stuff is spot on, David. And I love that you're doing it. If the listeners if they're curious, they want to learn more about you, or maybe they need some help in their own business and they want to reach out to you, where should they go to contact you? dfscales.com is our website. And then you can email me. It's df@dfscales.com. Or you can check me out on like Facebook, facebook.com/rdavidforster. Just find me on there. And I love sharing tactical info and some inspirational stuff too, just to implement in your home life as well. I love it. That's fantastic. Wherever you're watching, listening, all those links down below in the show notes. So go check that stuff out. And if you're in that range, if you're in the trades and maybe you do need some help, try it, right? Try a different perspective, or at least get a different perspective and see what you're not seeing in your own business. But I promise, again, from my own personal experience, getting out of the way is the only way you will enjoy growing your business. And David, sounds like you've had that similar story in growing so many businesses of your own. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Well, thank you again for being here. And for those of you watching, listening, we'll see you tomorrow on another episode of Harmonious at Lunch.
Another episode of Harmonious at Lunch in the books. I hope this episode made you think and you grabbed some actionable ideas to propel your business. Don't forget to like, comment your takeaways, and subscribe wherever you're listening so we can help more entrepreneurs just like you achieve harmony in your life and business. For cutting-edge tools that bring clarity to your people and processes, check out humanoff.com to download our app today. See you next time.